The Housemaid is both a psychological thriller, it's a cautionary tale, it's got a little bit of humor in it, and it's a revenge story. All of those things together tonally put together this kind of beautiful, I'll call it a mishmash, but it really it drives itself in the thriller genre. At its core, you have an assumption about people and what you believe people are just from the surface. And what the book does so beautifully that we really hope to achieve in the movie is upend those expectations. So when you're following a main character who you believe is one thing, and you're following another main character who you believe is another, and then we absolutely, completely, and utterly switch and shift those expectations. When reading the book, that to me was both mind-boggling from a literary sense, but also incredibly wonderful from a commercial sense. The movie is very closely related to the book, and it deals with a young woman named Millie, who we meet, and she's essentially, we'll call it unhoused. She's living in her car. She's desperate for a job. We don't exactly know why, but we know that she's in dire need of help. She gets an interview to work for a very upscale family in Great Neck, New York. Gorgeous mansion. They need a housekeeper and someone to help them with their young daughter. And she goes in for this interview, and we assume, and she assumes, that it's a job too good to be true. So after we read the book and fell in love with it, and sometimes this happens and more often than not it doesn't, the book became an absolute international sensation. It's between this one, the second book, the third book, there have been more than 7 million copies, billions of comments, famous people reading it. As a producer, the dream situation of how did a book that you read with your staff before anyone really knew about it turn into an absolute sensation. And how lucky are we that we get to cast Sydney Sweeney, Amanda Seyfried, and Brandon Sklenar in the 3 main roles. The first step, once reading a book like that, is, okay, who's the right person to adapt it? And every time this happens, you take a swing. We were fortunate enough to hire and work with Rebecca Sonnenschein, who had worked on a show that we all love called The Boys on Amazon. And this is not an exaggeration to say that in her very first draft of the script, and this never happens, ever, she wrote what we believed to be a movie. We read it and we said, wow, she wrote a movie. Now, Paul Feig is an unbelievable talent, multi-hyphenate, actor, writer, director. He has directed some of my favorite movies of all time, including Bridesmaids, Freaks and Geeks he created. He's just an absolute delight. And when we talked to him about what his vision was for this movie, he's famously known for comedy. And he's also done great genre blending in A Simple Favor and Simple Favor 2. And what he really, really wanted to accomplish in this was what he calls a Nancy Meyers movie that turns really, really, really bad. That when you're invited in as an audience, it's gorgeous. Everything is immaculate, everything in its place, and slowly we start to deconstruct that. Amanda Seyfried, who, gosh, I've been a fan of forever, since the Mean Girls days and Mamma Mia and The Dropout, and she's just done some incredible, incredible work. It's a role that was really enticing to her because she gets to play kind of various versions of herself, and witnessing it in real time, I'll say, witnessing it on set. It's unbelievable. Part of the goal for Elizabeth was to decorate the house and add elements to this house that if you look a little bit deeper into it, you can potentially find some clues and secrets to some of the ill-fated backstory of the Winchesters. Some of the artwork, while beautiful on the outside, if you really look at it, has some disturbing images inside of it. And that across the board was the design in totality of what we wanted for this house, that on the surface of things, everything looks beautiful. But if you look a little bit beneath, there's harm under there. That's how our characters are. That's how the house is. That's what the lighting's going to look like. That's what this movie's going to feel like. We're going to invite you in, and then we're going to slowly scare the hell out of you. The beauty of Freida McFadden, the author of The Housemaid, is even though she has in her own right been an accomplished author in the past, she has also this career, thriving career as a Harvard grad in the field of medicine. All the thrillers that she had written before really dealt in kind of the world in the medical world. So when she wrote The Housemaid and we read it and fell in love with it and talked to her, the most important thing to Freida, and this is where I will give all the credit in the world to her, is she just wanted the movie to be dealt with properly as representative of the book. And she wanted it in the right hands, and she really wanted it to get made. Those were essentially the qualifications of getting involved with Freida. I trust you guys. I just want this movie made, and I want it to represent the book that I wrote. Sydney Sweeney, everyone knows who Sydney is. She's unbelievable, and frankly, we had to pinch ourselves a little bit that we got her, because we couldn't have envisioned a more perfect Millie. She was the first choice, the only choice, and when she said she wanted to do it, we knew we had a movie. I think The Housemaid it's a unique blend where the audience doesn't exactly know what situation they're in. And I always love when you can keep an audience on their feet, keep an audience on their toes. So we're not quite giving them the full meal at the beginning, where we're hinting that there's a meal somewhere in here, but they have to work a little bit to figure it out. And my hope and my assumption, especially for those who haven't read the book, is that the audience is going to be blown away when they realize what the truth of this movie is. Now, for those who have read the book, I think they're going to be in for an extraordinary ride, because we're really, really honoring the book. Obviously, the medium of publishing and literary is different than the medium of visual storytelling, but we have really used the book as our blueprint of how to follow this movie. So I think for the fans of the book, there will be moments and things that they will recognize and love that people who haven't read the book won't know, but both will be fully entertained.